Hey, what is going on, guys? It's DK back at you with another video here for the first showdown slate of the NFL regular season. Really excited for the regular season to finally be here. We got Green Bay and we got Chicago. So before I jump into trying to break this down, a couple things I want to talk about. Week 4 preseason went really well for me. If you guys watched my video, if you guys hopped my stream, you probably did pretty well. I'm not going to go over my lineup on this video because, again, this is more of the regular season. But if you're curious, I did tweet out both my lineups from the main slate and the late slate of the preseason week 4. So if you're curious, you can go ahead and check it out on my Twitter. It's just DK__DFS. One other thing, too, I'm going to be running a $25 PayPal giveaway. I just tweeted it out. So all you have to do is retweet and follow me on Twitter. The tweet, again, you can search it. It's just DK_DFS. I basically just talked about my schedule for the regular season, which is going to be having YouTube videos up for all the showdown slates, the main slates, as well as the late slates. And then I'm going to be live streaming before lock, probably about 30 minutes to an hour for all those slates. So really excited for this NFL regular season. There's going to be a lot of content up on this channel. But yeah, without further ado, let's jump right into it. We got a huge contest here for Thursday. $10 entry, $1 million to first. So let's break it down. So I guess I'll start at the top here with Davante Adams at 12.6. You can't go wrong with him. He got targeted double-digit targets almost every single game last year. He's the go-to guy for Green Bay. One of the top wide receivers in the NFL. So honestly, I have no issue with Davante Adams. You just had to find the value on the slate to be able to get him in your lineup. But I think he has the most upside by far out of anyone on the slate. Then let's get to the two quarterbacks. So Aaron Rodgers and Mitch Trubisky. I definitely think you should play at least one quarterback, possibly two. So let's just talk about, if you throw both quarterbacks in here. You throw in Aaron Rodgers, throw Mitch Trubisky in. You got 6,500 remaining. You still got to throw a captain in there too. So it is a little tricky. Like, there's not a whole lot of cheap guys I like on the slate besides, the two kickers I'll talk about. I'll talk about a couple tight ends that I'm kind of keeping my eye on. But yeah, there's really not a whole lot of value. So it's going to be kind of tricky to play both. The over-under, it's kind of in the middle right now. It's 46, so really not too low, not too high. If it was a really high over-under, then I would definitely, for sure, try to get both quarterbacks in there. But this is kind of in the mid-range, so it's definitely viable to play one. I definitely wouldn't go no quarterback. I'd play at least one, possibly two. But yeah, Aaron Rodgers at 12.4K. I think he's a perfectly fine option here. Green Bay is the underdog. They're Chicago saved by 3, but yeah, no issue with Aaron Rodgers at all. And then Mitch Trubisky, a little cheaper here at 11.6. The thing I like about him is he does have a little rushing upside. I talk about that a lot in my videos, if you guys have been following me. I love those quarterbacks that do have the rushing upside. So Trubisky, he's not a big runner, but he can definitely get you a few extra points on the ground, which I do like. So I think he's okay. My issue with Chicago is they're such a balanced team overall. Like, not a team I like targeting DFS normally. But again, this is a showdown slate, so we got to play some Bears here. But yeah, that is kind of the issue with Chicago, is they're just such a balanced team. Now let's talk about the running backs, I guess. So Aaron Jones at 9.2K for Green Bay. He's going to be the workhorse. They have Jamal Williams, they have Dexter Williams, but I really don't expect those guys to get that many carries. So Green Bay, Aaron Jones, I think he's a pretty solid play here at 9.2K. A guy that doesn't catch a whole lot of footballs. He'll catch a couple a game, so it doesn't have that huge PPR upside. But I think he's pretty safe here. So I think Aaron Jones is a pretty okay option. And then Chicago, a little tricky here. So what I'm hearing is it's going to be David Montgomery is going to be the early, first and second down back, and then we're going to have Tariq Cohen as the third down PPR specialist. Obviously, we know him as. They still do have, where is he? Mike Davis as well that can get a little work. So Green Bay, they kind of have a running back by committee, but David Montgomery, he's been getting a lot of hype in the preseason. He's a rookie, so we don't know a whole lot. He's not like a proven back, but Green Bay or Chicago really likes this guy, so he's going to get the early down work. The issue is probably not going to see a lot of PPR action because it's going to be Tariq Cohen in that third down situation. So I don't think David Montgomery has huge upside. If you're playing cash games, I think he's the safer option of the two. But I definitely think Tariq Cohen has more upside. He's riskier for sure. but he's the guy that can get you know, at least 5 catches here or so. So I think Tariq Cohen is the riskier option, but has more upside. David Montgomery, I think, is a little more safe, but not as much upside. So that's basically it for the running backs. Let's talk about the wide receivers. So first, I'll talk about Chicago. Again, guys, Chicago, it's tough because they're a really balanced team. So they run a lot of 3 wide receiver sets. So it's going to be Allen Robinson's the number 1 guy. And then they have Anthony Miller as well as Taylor Gabriel. So Taylor Gabriel's the cheapest here at 6.2K. Again, they run a lot of 3 wide receiver sets, so he'll be out there a lot. So I think that's a pretty fair price for him. Anthony Miller, he's listed as questionable, but from what I'm hearing, he's going to be good to go for week 1. So he's another guy that you can consider. He's a little more expensive than Taylor Gabriel, but not much. And then Allen Robinson here at 8.6K. He's the number 1. Didn't have a great year. He flashed a little upside here and there. A 34-point game as well as a 33-point fantasy game. But other than that, he was a little disappointing. But again, I definitely think all 3 of those guys are viable. It's all about how much salary you have left. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts with the wide receivers. So let me go to Green Bay's wide receivers. Again, I already kind of talked about Devontae Adams. So this guy just has so much upside. I definitely think you want to get him in there for cash games. GPPs, I think he's worth, you definitely can fade him, but he has the most upside by far of anyone on the slate. So, I really think if you can get a cheap guy or 2 in your lineup, then you definitely want to try to get Devontae in there. And then it's MVS and Geronimo Allison. So MVS is going to be landing, going to be out wide with Devontae. He's a guy that, I think he's a pretty okay option here at 6.8K. Again, Green Bay is probably going to be, passing the ball a little more here. So I think he's okay. Geronimo, a little more expensive, but I like that he's in the slot. Was out for a good amount of the season, about half the season last year, but he's a guy that also has flashed some upside, pretty consistent. So if he can stay healthy, I think Geronimo Allison is another pretty solid option. Again, Green Bay, they like running a lot of 3 wide receiver sets as well. So all 3 of those guys are definitely in play. It's just about how much salary you have remaining and how confident you feel with those guys. So now let's try to get into the cheap guys. So I'll start with Chicago, I guess. And there is one big injury news we're kind of waiting for is the availability of Trey Burton. So right now he's listed as questionable. We don't have definitive news. This is Monday, so we got a few days until a game. But I think if he plays at 6K, I think is a pretty good option. Green Bay or Chicago likes targeting the tight end. Trey Burton, he kind of had a little disappointing year. He was hyped up at the beginning of the year for sure. But I think if he plays, again, a slate that kind of lacks value, I think Trey Burton is definitely in play. Now, the Bears defense, they're obviously one of the best defenses last year in the NFL. They're going to be pretty good again this year. The only issue is, they're going up against Aaron Rodgers and that high-powered Green Bay offense. 5K is kind of a lot for a defense, so they have proven that they're worth it, but I don't know if that's going to be the way I go. And then finally, the kickers. Do not forget about the kickers on Showdown slates. These guys can definitely get you 10 to 15 fantasy points, which is great for in the 3K range. It's going to be Eddie Pineiro. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but he's going to be the kicker for the Bears. So again, on a slate, the Showdown slate lacks some value plays. So I think playing a kicker in your lineup is not the worst idea at all. So definitely do not forget about these guys. They're very important for for salary relief. And finally, if Trey Burton misses, one guy I want to talk about would be where is he? Adam Shaheen. Shaheen? Yeah, I think probably botched that name as well. But he would be the number 1 guy for Chicago if Trey Burton misses. And at $400, you can't go wrong there. So this would be pretty big. If Trey Burton misses, I think Sheehan is a really solid option there. And again, only $400. You can basically get anyone you like if you play him in there. So I think this is definitely a situation we want to keep an eye on, the availability of Trey Burton. Let's go to Green Bay, the cheap guys. So Jonathan Williams, I don't think I would go there again. He's going to be the number 2, him and Dexter Williams. I just don't think there's enough meat on the bone there at 5.4K, so I don't think I'm going to go there. Jimmy Graham had a little disappointing year. Played all 16 games or whatever for Green Bay, but just a little down year. Again, he's got Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball. 4.6K is pretty cheap, so I think Jimmy Graham's a pretty solid option. Again, he had a kind of a disappointing year, but just being the tight end for Aaron Rodgers is a big boost. So I think he's worth a look for sure here at 4.6K. Again, kickers, do not forget about the kickers. Mason Crosby, let's just go over his fantasy points by week. 13, 12, 13, 5, 5, 6, 7, 5, 12, 17, 4, 14, 6, 19, 7. So what, if we average those out, probably averaging, like 8 or 9 fantasy points a game with upside of, close to 20. So do not forget about these kickers. They're very important for salary relief. I definitely think it's not the worst idea to play one kicker in your lineup. So Mason Crosby, I think he's a guy that you got to consider for sure. Just because, again, a slate that really lacks value, kickers are important. Packers defense, don't think I can go there. I know they're really cheap, but they just did not look good last year. It's at Chicago too. Now, can Mitch Trubisky throw a pick 6? Yeah. I think the Packers D goes pretty low owned, but it's probably not going to be the way I go. Again, I'm not too high on either defense. The Bears obviously are really good, but they're a little pricey. The Packers, just not the best defense. I know they're cheap, but I just don't think I want to go there. Dexter Williams, he's 800. Now, it's going to be interesting to see who is going to be the backup. Is it going to be Jamal Williams? Is it going to be Dexter Williams? If it's Dexter Williams, then I think you can consider him, but we just don't know. Again, it's going to be Aaron Jones going to be the workhorse, but he's not going to be able to be out there every single down. So it's going to be interesting to see if it's going to be Dexter, if it's going to be Jamal. If it's Jamal Williams, I don't really have interest. If it's Dexter, I think he's worth a look here at 800 just because, again, slate that kind of lacks value. So let's get into what kind of build you want for cash games for GPPs. So for cash games, I definitely think you don't worry about ownership at all. You just play the best possible lineup and kind of go from there. Now for GPPs, again, this is $10, $1 million to first. If you make a lineup that uses all the salary, it's going to be popular. Like there's going to be a lot of other people that have that same lineup. You're going to split the first place if you win with a bunch of different people. So it's all about whether you want to play it safe and you're fine, splitting the money with a bunch of other people, or you want to go risky and maybe try to win the $1 million all to yourself. So if you want to try to win the $1 million all to yourself, you're going to have to not use some of your salary. And I think probably, 1,000 to 2,000, maybe even 3,000 worth of salary, leave it on the board, and you're going to have a really unique lineup that probably no one else or very few people will have. So it's all about whether you want to play it safe and you're fine splitting it with however many people have the same lineup as you, or do you want to go risky and try to win it all? Again, $1 million to first. I'm probably going to make a pretty unique lineup and not use all my salary and try to go for it all. I'll probably enter it 2 times. I'll probably enter like a safer lineup and then one that's more risky, just because, again, $1 million to first, that's a lot. So yeah, I think that's basically about it. Again, guys, the 2 quarterbacks, I definitely think you play at least one. Playing 2 is definitely viable if you're going to probably have to play a kicker. So those tight ends, Jimmy Graham's cheap, Trey Burton's cheap, but if he misses the game, you can look to the backup there, who I already talked about. Both these teams, again, like running a 3 wide receiver set. So all 3 receivers for both teams are definitely in play. The running back situation, it's a little tricky. Aaron Jones is the workhorse of Green Bay, but 9.2K, I think he's priced about right. And then Chicago, you're going to have kind of a running back by committee, but I think David Montgomery is safe. Tariq Cohen has a little more upside, but is a little riskier. And yeah, I think that's basically about it, guys. So if you have been enjoying the content so far, I would really appreciate if you would like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Again, I will be live streaming. I will have a live stream before the Showdown slate, probably about 30 minutes before. So, I'll be in there breaking down any late breaking injury news. Again, only news are way down basically is Trey Burton, but I'll be in there answering any questions you guys have. And yeah, that's basically it. So I'll be back for another video. I'll have a video up. I already had an early breakdown of week 1 that I have up on my YouTube channel for the main slate. I'm going to be doing another video closer to lock, probably a couple days before, and I'll have that up on my YouTube as well. So I'll be back for another video then. And yeah, so I will see you guys then.